My name is Lacey Warren. I'm a nurse working night shifts at the hospital here in Anchorage, raising my 7-year-old daughter Scarlett on my own. My parents left my daughter Scarlett with a stranger. Then they just drove away. No warning, no explanation. I didn't chase their truck down the snowy road. I didn't scream into the phone or beg them to come back. I made one quiet move. The next day, everything changed for them. They thought leaving her there was nothing, just a quick lesson to teach me how to be a better mother, how to stop being so independent. They figured I'd panic, call crying, and finally listen to their rules again. They were wrong. What they didn't know was that doorbell cameras don't lie. Footage doesn't forget. And in Alaska, leaving a child alone in the cold isn't just family business anymore, it becomes everyone's business. I stood there watching the video replay, Scarlett's small figure on that stranger's porch, coat unzipped, looking back at the taillights disappearing into the dusk. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't break in that moment. It hardened. They drove off thinking they'd won. They had no idea what was coming next. If you've ever felt that cold knot in your stomach when family turns on you, hit that like button if you want justice to win. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss how this ends. And drop a comment. Would you have stayed silent like I did? Let's get into it. 3 weeks earlier, everything started when my parents called me over to their house in the quiet suburbs outside Anchorage. They had been dropping hints for days about wanting to do something special for Scarlett. She needs more family time, Mom said on the phone. Alaska winters are long, let her see some real nature, build snow forts, maybe spot a moose. It'll be good for her. I was exhausted from back-to-back night shifts at the hospital, barely sleeping 4 hours a day, but Scarlett's eyes lit up when I told her Grandma and Grandpa wanted to take her on a little adventure. She loved their stories about fishing trips and aurora watching. So I said yes. That Saturday morning, Dad pulled up in his old silver pickup truck. The bed was loaded with blankets, a cooler, and Scarlett's favorite stuffed bear peeking out. Mom stepped out wearing her heavy parka, smiling wide like nothing was wrong. Brianna was already in the passenger seat, scrolling on her phone. She gave me a quick wave. "I'll keep an eye on her, don't worry," she said, not looking up. I buckled Scarlett into the back seat, kissed her forehead, and handed her the small backpack with snacks and her gloves. "Be good, okay? Call me if you need anything. Mommy loves you." She nodded, grinning. "I love you more." Dad revved the engine. "We'll have her back by dinner tomorrow. Relax, Lacey. You work too hard anyway." I stood in the driveway watching the truck disappear down the snowy road, taillights fading into the gray morning light. Something felt off, too rushed, too perfect, but I pushed it down. They were family. They wouldn't do anything stupid. I went back inside, made coffee, and tried to catch a few hours of sleep before my next shift. The house felt too quiet without Scarlett's chatter. Hours passed. My phone stayed silent. Then, around 4 in the afternoon, it rang a number I didn't recognize. I answered, expecting a telemarketer or wrong number. Instead, a woman's voice, calm but urgent. "Hi, is this Lacey Warren? I think I have your daughter here." My stomach dropped. She explained she lived in a neighborhood about 40 minutes south, near Turn-Again Arm. A little girl had knocked on her door crying, saying her grandparents dropped her off and drove away. The child gave my name and number. Scarlett had memorized it just like I taught her. The woman said Scarlett was safe inside, wrapped in a blanket, drinking hot chocolate. But she sounded shaken. She keeps asking why they left her. I grabbed my keys, heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. "I'm on my way," I said. "Please don't let her out of your sight." As I drove through the slushy roads, the only thing I could think was, they actually did it. They left my 7-year-old on a stranger's doorstep in the middle of an Alaskan winter. And they drove away like it was nothing. 45 minutes later, I pulled into the driveway of a modest, split-level house overlooking the Arm, tires crunching on fresh snow. The woman who answered the door mid-40s, wearing a thick sweater and holding a mug, stepped aside quickly. Scarlett was curled on the living room couch under a quilt, eyes red but no longer crying. When she saw me, she bolted upright and ran straight into my arms. "Mommy!" I dropped to my knees and held her so tight I could feel her heartbeat against my chest. She smelled like hot chocolate and someone else's laundry detergent. I checked her over hands cold but not frostbitten. Coat still on, no visible marks. She was safe. That was the only thing that mattered in that second. The woman introduced herself as Elena. She lived alone, worked remote for a logistics company, and had just come home from grocery shopping when she heard the small knock. Scarlett had been standing there maybe 10 minutes, she guessed. She said her grandma told her to wait here until someone answered. Elena explained quietly. Then the truck drove off. I brought her inside right away and called the number she gave me. I thanked her over and over while Scarlett clung to my leg. Elena showed me the doorbell footage on her phone without me even asking. The clip was crystal clear despite the dim winter light. Dad's silver pickup eased to the curb. Mom got out first, opened the back door, and lifted Scarlett down. She crouched to eye level, said something short, lips moving but no audio, then pointed at the house. Scarlett nodded, confused. Mom hugged her quick, got back in, and the truck pulled away smoothly. No hesitation, no brake lights lingering. Scarlett stood frozen for a few seconds, then turned and walked up the steps to ring the bell. I watched it twice. Each time my jaw tightened more. Did they say anything to you when they dropped her? I asked Elena. No. Just drove up, set her down, and left. I thought maybe they were running an errand and forgot something, but no, they didn't come back. I asked if I could have a copy of the video. Elena nodded, airdropped it to my phone in seconds. You should report this, she said gently. That's not normal. I know. Scarlett tugged my sleeve. Grandma said it was a game, that I had to be brave and wait for you to find me. My throat closed. I forced a small smile for her. You were so brave, baby. Let's go home now. On the drive back, Scarlett fell asleep almost immediately, head against the window, still clutching the stuffed bear. I kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, replaying Elena's words. A game. Brave. Wait for you to find me. When we got home, I carried her inside, laid her on the couch with extra blankets, and sat on the floor watching her breathe. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the video again, paused on the frame where Mom's face was clearest. She wasn't crying, she wasn't looking back, she looked resolved. I forwarded the clip to myself as backup, then saved it to a private cloud folder. Then I tried Brianna one more time, straight to voicemail. Hey, it's me, I said after the beep, voice steady. Scarlett's with me now. She's okay. But we need to talk about what happened today. Call me back. I hung up. The house was silent except for the hum of the furnace kicking on. Outside, snow started falling again, soft, steady, covering tracks. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I just sat there staring at the frozen screen, the taillights frozen mid-fade. They had planned this. They hadn't just lost their temper or made a mistake. They had driven 40 minutes out of their way, picked a random house, and left my daughter on the porch like she was a package they no longer wanted to carry. And now, I had proof. That night, Scarlett slept in my bed for the first time in years, her small body pressed against my side like she was afraid I might disappear too. I didn't sleep. I sat up against the headboard with my phone in hand, brightness turned all the way down so it wouldn't wake her. The footage from Elena's doorbell played on loop in my mind, every detail sharper than before, the way Mom's hand lingered on Scarlett's shoulder just a second too long, the quick glance Dad gave in the rear view before accelerating away. I knew if I called them right then, I would lose control. Yelling wouldn't fix this. Tears wouldn't make them sorry. So I did the only thing that felt like power. I reached out to someone who could actually help. Nathan Brooks and I had gone to nursing school together years ago. He switched to law after graduation, specialized in family court and child welfare cases. We hadn't talked much since he moved his practice downtown, but he always answered when I texted late at night. I sent a simple message at due dis accepta. Can you talk? Emergency with Scarlett. They left her on a stranger's porch today. His reply came in under 90 seconds. Call me now. I slipped out to the living room, closed the bedroom door softly, and dialed. Nathan picked up on the first ring. Lacey, what the hell happened? I told him everything straight. No emotion, just facts. The family trip pitch, the pickup leaving, the stranger's call, the video. I described Scarlett's face when she saw me, the hot chocolate, the game, excuse. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he let out a slow breath. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is endangerment. In Alaska, leaving a child under 12 unsupervised in those conditions, especially in winter, qualifies as neglect under state statute. The fact they drove away intentionally makes it worse. He paused. Do you have the footage? Yes. Saved and backed up. Good. Don't delete anything. Don't confront them yet. First step. Report to Office of Children's Services right now. Alaska CPS, they move fast on abandonment cases. I'll send you the direct link. He texted it while we were still on the phone. Second, he continued, we prepare for civil. You can sue for emotional distress and any medical costs if Scarlett needs counseling. The video is gold, clear intent, no return. We can request emergency temporary order barring contact until hearing. I leaned against the wall, staring at the dark kitchen window. They'll say it was just to teach me a lesson. Let them. Judges don't buy tough love when it involves stranding a 7-year-old at a random house, especially not with footage. He asked if I wanted him to represent me. I said yes without hesitation. Send me the video tonight. I'll review it first thing tomorrow and draft the initial CPS report language so it's airtight. You file it yourself makes it your complaint, not hearsay. Before we hung up, he added one last thing. Lacey, this isn't about revenge. It's about protecting Scarlett from now on. But if they push back, we push harder. Legally. I thanked him and ended the call. Next, I opened the CPS portal on my laptop. The form was straightforward. Incident description, child's details, alleged perpetrators. I listed my parents and after a moment's hesitation, Brianna, since she was in the truck. I attached the video file, Elena's contact info as witness, and Scarlett's pediatrician details in case they wanted records. I hit submit at 3:42 a.m. A confirmation email arrived immediately. Report received. Caseworker assigned within 24 hours. I closed the laptop and went back to bed. Scarlett had rolled over, one arm flung across my pillow. I slid in beside her and stared at the ceiling until the first gray light crept through the blinds. They thought one afternoon of tough love would bring me back in line. They had no idea I'd already started the clock on something they couldn't undo. The next morning, a CPS caseworker named Miss Ramirez knocked on my door at 9:15 sharp. She was in her late 30s, clipboard in hand, wearing practical boots for the snow. Scarlett was still asleep in my room, so we talked in the kitchen with the door closed. She reviewed the online report I'd submitted overnight, asked a few clarifying questions, then watched the doorbell footage on my laptop. Her face stayed neutral, but I saw her eyebrows lift slightly at the moment the truck pulled away. This is clear abandonment, she said flatly. No prearranged caregiver, no return plan, child left unsupervised in sub-zero conditions. We'll open an investigation today. I need to speak with Scarlett when she wakes up gently, just to confirm her version. I nodded. She's scared, but she'll talk to you. While we waited, Miss Ramirez explained the process. Interviews with all parties, home visits, possible safety plan. If the evidence held, they could seek a temporary protective order barring my parents from contact. Scarlett woke up around 10. She came out rubbing her eyes, saw the stranger, and immediately hid behind my leg. Miss Ramirez knelt down to her level. Hi, Scarlett. I'm here to help make sure you're safe. Can you tell me what happened yesterday? Scarlett looked up at me for permission. I squeezed her hand. She spoke in a small voice. Grandma said it was a brave game. Grandpa drove fast after. She waited a long time until the nice lady opened the door. Miss Ramirez took notes without interrupting. When Scarlett finished, she smiled softly. You did really well telling me that. Thank you. After the caseworker left promising to follow up soon, I made Scarlett pancakes and tried to keep the day normal. She colored quietly at the table while I cleaned up. Then my phone rang. Dad's number. I answered on speaker, so I could record Alaska allows one-party consent for calls. Lacey, what the hell is this? Dad's voice boomed right away. CPS showed up at our house this morning asking questions. You reported us? I kept my tone even. Scarlett is home safe now. But yes, I filed a report. You left her on a stranger's porch and drove away. Mom jumped in on the other line. We were teaching you a lesson. You never listen. You think you can raise her alone, working those crazy hours, no respect for family rules. We just wanted you to see how serious we are. A lesson? I repeated. By abandoning a 7-year-old in the snow? It wasn't abandoning, Dad snapped. We knew the house had people home. Elena's a friend of a friend. She was supposed to call us when you came crying for help. I almost laughed cold, short. You picked a random acquaintance's house 40 minutes away and left my daughter there as bait? That's your plan? Silence for a beat. Brianna's voice came through next, quieter. Lacey, I didn't want to do it. They said it was just for a couple hours, that you'd come running. I was in the back seat the whole time. I thought it would fix things. You helped them strap her in and drive off, I said. You didn't stop it. Mom cut in again. If you don't drop this CPS nonsense, we'll tell the court you're unstable. Night shifts, no husband, always stressed. Who do you think they'll believe, a single mom or responsible grandparents? I let the threat hang for a second. I have the video, I said calmly, clear as day. Your faces, the truck, Scarlett standing alone. I have Elena's statement. I have Scarlett's words. And now CPS is involved. Dad's tone shifted, less angry, more urgent. Lacey, come on. We're family. Let's talk this out. No need for lawyers or courts. I already have a lawyer, I told them. Nathan Brooks. He's reviewing everything. Another pause. Mom's voice cracked a little. You're really going to do this? Cut us out over one afternoon? One afternoon that could have ended with my daughter freezing or worse, I said. You made your choice when you drove away. Now I'm making mine. I hung up. The kitchen was quiet again, except for Scarlett's crayon scratching paper. She looked up. Was that Grandma? Yeah, I said. They're not happy. Scarlett nodded slowly. I don't want to go with them anymore. I pulled her into a hug. You don't have to, baby. Not ever again, if that's what keeps you safe. Outside, the snow kept falling, burying yesterday's tracks completely. 2 weeks later, the courtroom in the Anchorage Family Services building felt smaller than it should have. Sterile white walls, a low wooden bench for witnesses, and a judge who looked like she'd seen every version of family drama before. Nathan had prepared me well. We sat at the petitioner's table, Scarlett safe at home with a trusted neighbor. Miss Ramirez from CPS was there as a witness for the state, her report already submitted. My parents and Brianna sat across the aisle with their own attorney, a local guy who specialized in elder rights cases. The judge called the hearing to order. It was an emergency protective order hearing combined with the initial CPS review, fast-tracked because of the abandonment allegation. Nathan went first. He stood calmly and handed out copies of the evidence packet. Your Honor, we're seeking an emergency order suspending all contact between the respondents Stephen Murphy, Karen Murphy, and Brianna Cole, and the minor child Scarlett Reed, pending full investigation and potential termination proceedings. He started with the video. The courtroom screen played Elena's doorbell footage in slow motion. The truck stopping, Mom lifting Scarlett down, the quick hug, the pointed finger toward the house, the truck driving off without pause. No sound. But the visuals were devastating. Nathan narrated quietly. At approximately 3:45 p.m., on the date in question, the respondents intentionally left a 7-year-old child unsupervised on a stranger's doorstep in sub-freezing temperatures. No arrangements were made with the homeowner. No return plan existed. The child was left for an estimated 10 to 15 minutes before the resident intervened. Next came Elena's sworn affidavit read aloud by Nathan. She confirmed the facts. Scarlett crying, coat unzipped, repeating, "Grandma said, wait here." Elena's statement ended with, "I believed the child was in immediate danger." Miss Ramirez took the stand. She testified that Scarlett's interview matched the video and affidavit. She noted Scarlett's statements about the brave game and her fear that no one would come back. CPS had already classified the incident as high-risk neglect. Then Nathan played the recorded phone call, the one I'd captured the morning after. Dad's angry voice filled the room. We knew the house had people home. It was supposed to call us when you came crying. Mom's threat. We'll tell the court you're unstable. Brianna's quiet admission. I didn't want to do it. I thought it would fix things. The judge's expression didn't change much, but she took notes steadily. Their attorney stood up for cross-examination. He tried to frame it as a misguided but well-intentioned family intervention. He asked Miss Ramirez if grandparents had ever been involved in caregiving before. She said yes, but that didn't excuse abandonment. He questioned Elena's affidavit, suggesting she might have exaggerated the danger. Elena, called as a witness, stayed firm. A 7-year-old alone on a porch in January, Alaska is dangerous. Period. When Mom took the stand, she teared up almost immediately. We love Scarlett. We were trying to show Lacey she needs help. She works nights, barely sleeps, no support. We thought a little scare would bring her closer to family. Dad added, We never meant harm. We picked a safe house. Elena knows people we know. It was supposed to be temporary. Brianna went last. She looked miserable. They convinced me it was harmless. I sat in the back. I didn't get out. I regret it now. Nathan cross-examined gently but sharply. You heard Scarlett crying in the back seat on the drive? You didn't ask them to turn around? Brianna looked down. No, I should have. The judge recessed for 20 minutes to review documents. When she returned, her ruling came quick. Based on the clear evidence of intentional abandonment, the recorded threats, and the child's reported distress, I am granting the emergency protective order. Respondents are barred from any direct or indirect contact with the minor child until further order of the court. CPS will continue its investigation with a recommendation hearing in 30 days. She looked directly at my parents. What you describe as discipline, the law calls endangerment. This court takes the safety of children seriously. Nathan squeezed my hand under the table. I didn't smile. I just exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. As we left the building, snow swirling outside, I saw Mom glance back once. Her face was pale. Dad stared straight ahead. Brianna walked behind them, head down. They had come expecting a slap on the wrist. They left, knowing the clock was now running on everything they thought they controlled. 1 month after the emergency hearing, we were back in the same Anchorage courtroom for the final CPS recommendation and the civil damages hearing Nathan had filed in parallel. This time, the room felt heavier. My parents sat rigid at their table, faces drawn, no longer trying to look composed. Brianna wasn't there. Nathan had informed me she'd submitted a written statement admitting full involvement and expressing regret. She'd also agreed to cooperate with CPS without contesting the findings. The judge reviewed the full CPS investigation report first. Miss? Ramirez summarized it from the stand. Scarlett had shown signs of acute anxiety after the incident nightmares. Reluctance to be alone, asking repeatedly if someone would leave her again. A court-appointed child psychologist confirmed mild trauma consistent with abandonment fear. No physical harm, but emotional impact was clear and documented. Nathan presented updated evidence. Medical bills for Scarlett's initial counseling sessions, $3,200 so far, and my lost wages from taking extra time off to stay home with her. He also submitted character references from my hospital supervisor and 2 neighbors who'd known the family dynamic for years. Their attorney tried one last defense. He argued the incident was isolated, that my parents had a long history of providing childcare, and that Scarlett had been safe within minutes because of the homeowner's intervention. He requested supervised visitation instead of full termination. The judge listened, then turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, you've had opportunities to show remorse and accountability. Instead, your initial response was to threaten the petitioner and question her fitness as a mother. That choice speaks volumes. Mom started to speak, voice trembling, but the judge raised a hand. I've reviewed the footage, the call recording, the child's statements, and the expert evaluations. This was not a momentary lapse. It was a deliberate act of endangerment, designed to manipulate and control an adult child through her minor daughter. She paused, looking directly at them. Effective immediately, I am terminating all legal rights of visitation, guardianship, or contact between Stephen Murphy, Karen Murphy, and the minor child Scarlett Reed. This termination is permanent unless extraordinary circumstances warrant reversal in the future, which, based on the evidence, I do not foresee. Nathan stood. Your Honor, we also request the civil judgment for damages. The judge nodded. On the civil claim for negligent infliction of emotional distress and related costs, I award the petitioner $25,000 in compensatory damages, plus reimbursement of documented medical and counseling expenses to date. This amount reflects the severity of the breach of duty and the foreseeable harm to the child. She signed the order right there at the bench. My parents didn't move at first. Dad's jaw clenched. Mom covered her mouth with one hand. Their attorney leaned over and whispered something, but they just sat there as the bailiff called the next case. Outside the courthouse, snow had stopped and the sky was a flat, pale gray. Nathan walked me to my car. It's done, he said quietly. The no-contact order is enforceable statewide. If they try to reach out, even through a third party, you report it immediately. CPS will monitor compliance. I nodded. Thank you. For everything. He smiled faintly. You did the hard part, staying calm when it counted. I drove home slowly, windows cracked to let in the cold air. Scarlett was at after-school care. I'd pick her up in an hour. When I pulled into the driveway, I checked my phone. A text from an unknown number, probably one of their friends or a burner. We're sorry. Please don't do this to us. I blocked it without replying. Later that evening, after Scarlett was in bed with her favorite book, I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the court papers. The termination order was final. The money would help with therapy and maybe a small college fund down the line, but it wasn't about that. It was about the line they'd crossed and the one I'd drawn in return. They had lost access to their granddaughter forever. Not because I was cruel, because they chose control over safety. And in the end, the law agreed with me. 6 months have passed since the judge signed those final papers. Scarlett and I moved to a small 2-bedroom condo closer to the hospital downtown. Easier commute for me, better school district for her, and no more long drives past my parents' neighborhood. The new place has big windows that let in the winter light, and Scarlett picked out glow-in-the-dark stars to stick on her ceiling. She still asks sometimes if Grandma and Grandpa will come back, but the questions come less often now. Therapy helped. Routine helped more. She's back to her old self in most ways, laughing at silly cartoons, drawing pictures of Moose and Aurora for her teacher, begging for extra bedtime stories. The nightmares are rare. When they happen, she climbs into my bed without a word, and I hold her until she falls asleep again. No explanations needed anymore. She's resilient more than I ever was at 7. I'm proud of her every single day. I finished the last counseling session 2 weeks ago. The psychologist said Scarlett's anxiety scores are back in the normal range for her age. The $25,000 from the civil judgment came through after appeals were dropped. I put most of it into a trust account for Scarlett's future college, maybe a car when she's older. The rest covered the therapy copays and a few things we needed. New winter gear, a reliable used car so I don't rely on night shift buses anymore, practical stuff, no splurges, just stability. I haven't heard from my parents since the day after the ruling. No calls, no texts, no letters slipped under the door. I know they're still in Anchorage. Nathan keeps an eye on public records for me, but they've stayed away. The no-contact order works. If they ever test it, CPS and the court will handle it fast. Brianna reached out once, 3 months ago, through a mutual friend. She said she was sorry, that she'd cut ties with Mom and Dad over what happened, that she was seeing a therapist herself. I read the message twice, then blocked the friend's number. Forgiveness isn't on the table. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Some bridges burn clean. I still work nights, but I switched to a schedule with more days off. Scarlett and I have mornings together now, pancakes on weekends, walks along the coastal trail when the weather cooperates. She talks about wanting a dog someday. I'm thinking about it. Looking back, I don't regret the silence that day in the driveway. I didn't scream, didn't chase, didn't beg. I just protected what mattered most. They thought leaving her would force me to bend. Instead, it forced me to stand up straight for her and for myself. Family isn't automatic. Blood doesn't guarantee safety or love. Sometimes the healthiest choice is the hardest one, drawing a permanent line and never looking back. Scarlett is safe. She's happy. She's growing up knowing she's loved without conditions. That's enough. More than enough. If you're watching this and you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your child safe, know that you're not alone. And know that choosing your child doesn't make you the villain. It makes you the parent they need. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story meant something to you, drop a like, subscribe for more real stories like this, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my shoes? See you in the next one.